Welcome back to Interjections. We are rolling with the Three Musketeers today, unburdened from the weight of carrying Andrew. We have a lot to discuss. Let's get straight into it. I'm joined by Irfan.
Hey guys, good to be here. Man, what a match! All I can say is wow. Still reeling after that performance, and excited to talk to you guys about it.
Yamal robbed for man of the match. That's what I'll say. And Mikko.
Yeah, hello to all. Such mood swing times for Inter fans. Last time we spoke, it was a bit different atmosphere. Now we are like again waiting for the matches. So great to talk about yesterday's match.
Let's jump right into it. Before we give our various takes on the match, before we discuss any individual performances or tactics or anything like this, I just want to say, fuck Yamal, fuck Barca. Inter are men, and I mean real men. Inter are a ragtag band of red-blooded, flawed, imperfect brothers. We win and lose, live and die by the sword. Everything we gain, every time we fall, it's by the sweat of our own brow and from the hard work of back-breaking labor and toil and effort. And there's a humility and nobility and a virtue in that suffering that these freaks will never quite understand. Because we don't have these autistic mutant kids with superpowers who can fucking move buildings with their minds and fly. Like Lamine is like a young Clark Kent or a pre-wheelchair Professor Charles Xavier. It felt like we had to be perfect and move mountains in order to score our goals, whereas it feels like these dipshits are pulling freak goals out of their asses from 40 meters and dribbling past the entire team themselves like they're playing PlayStation. Get the fuck out of here, seriously. And that's where I want to start us off today. How do you feel, Mikko, about this performance in terms of how we responded to 3 consecutive losses, which eliminated us from the Coppa Italia, of course, and effectively put a massive dent in our Scudetto hopes? The strength of mind, the will to claw back, to deliver a performance like this, something quite special, no?
Yes, this is what we wanted to see. Like it was like an absolutely terrible week. 3 matches, 3 losses. So this is the response we all wanted. Inter fans, the club, team, coach, everyone. They commented after the match that it was a tough week and kind of expressed the situation, how hard it is now since they are indeed out of the Coppa. Scudetto chances, they took a big hit. So now they have this one competition left, and I think the performance, I think it was I don't know, it was a bit two-sided, but the result, I didn't expect. I think we all predicted a loss. So getting a draw from the first leg is a big one, and when it comes to the kind of the performance, I kind of liked we fought till the end. We kind of sacrificed a lot. We can do that. We aren't getting frustrated with the lack of ball possession or anything like that. We can do the defending, but then, like you brilliantly kind of brought out the fact how Barcelona have these certain players from their academy. Once in a while that they have these kind of guys who are like out of this world, and it just becomes so hard, even if the team has kind of trained this defending, the team defending and everything. It just becomes so hard to defend when you have this kind of guy like Yamal, who can just take 2 guys or play against two guys, and they are kind of struggling to contain him, and obviously that creates space elsewhere, and so on and so on. But overall, I'm fairly happy with the performance, since we managed to score 3 goals away to Barcelona. That doesn't happen often, although it happened the last time as well when we played there. But I think that was Xavi time, so maybe it's a bit different. 3 goals, 3 goals to our own net as well. I don't know, was it expected, but that's what happened anyway. But I think we played pretty well overall, given the circumstances.
Irfan, what kind of emotions did it invoke in you to see young Dumfries towering above weak little Danny Olmo and Pedri to power home these goals?
Yeah, it was something. It was incredible. What a fun match to watch. I mean, even if you're not an Inter fan, if you're a Barcelona fan, then I don't have much to say to you. But as a neutral party watching the match too, what a match to watch. I mean, the skill level that was on display on both sides, I think, was just incredible. To me, it was the best match so far this year in the Champions League. It was just, there was something in it for everyone. I mean, from the first minute when we scored our first goal to basically the end of the match, there was just nonstop action. You didn't know what was going to happen. It was something, and it was exhausting. I mean, I felt mentally exhausted by the end of the match because of all the excitement and exhilaration. And no, it felt really good to watch the team put in a performance like this. I mean, putting my fan hat on for a second, like you guys talked about, what a way to bounce back after having such a rough go recently. There was no guarantees. You're playing probably the hardest match you're going to play all season, and you come out and put in this sort of a performance, a fearless sort of performance, and it was great to watch. Like you mentioned, the goals, man, like I can't think of a match where I've seen such amazing goals. Like the two weakest goals were probably the Dumfries header for our third goal and Barcelona's second goal were probably the two weakest, and even those were just amazing goals. But wow, like Dumfries' first goal, Thuram's first goal and Dumfries' goal were both just top notch. And then obviously Yamal and Rafinha, well, I guess it's an own goal technically, but those two were also just incredible. What really surprised me was I haven't seen Barcelona play that much this year. I mean, I've seen the highlights, I've seen some of the major matches, but man, they're a scary, scary team when they're attacking. And after we scored our first goal, and then especially after we scored our second goal, it was just like, I think I referred to it as like a blitzkrieg of offense from them. It was something to watch the way they would attack, and it was just relentless. And I kept thinking that if any team could do that consistently, for a long period of time, we would be in so much trouble. But sure enough, by the time the second half rolled around, they were a lot more calm and measured and played, like a more regular sort of pace that allowed us to really stay into it. Because the last, 20, 25 minutes of that first half was just insane. Like I can't imagine, like we were holding on for dear life, really. And you're right. The team is just full of these crazy, like mutant talented people. I mean, we talked about Yamal, but even Rafinha and who was it, like Ferran Torres, like they're all so good. They're all so skilled. It's really hard to contain them when they're intent on scoring. So it was a great match. I enjoyed watching it. I think everyone enjoyed watching it. Super happy with the result, all things considered. I'm not fussed that, we had a 2-goal lead and we gave it up pretty quick, and then we went up again and we couldn't hold a lead. I mean, with the way these guys attack when they need a goal, it's really, really hard to contain them, especially in their own home. So I think the boys did a good job, and I think given all that's been going on for us over the last week or so, this is about as good of a result as you can ask for. I remember I texted one of our group chats right before the match was starting. When I saw the lineup, I said, if Dumfries and Thuram are playing, I think we have a real shot at something. And to me, one of the biggest things that this just stressed is, we talked about in the last episode, if you have our starting 11, I would really put that starting 11 up against anybody in the world. I think we have the talent and the organization and the mindset and the tactics to really go up against anybody if our starting 11 is there. But holy moly, do we drop off the face of the planet when we have to make a single sub, with the exception of maybe Augusto. It's just, everything just breaks down one way or another, which really worries me about, Toro's injury. But it's just, with Thuram and Dumfries, we're just a different attacking team. And I just can't help but think that if those two would have been able to stay healthy over the stretch, especially in the last, month or so, then I think we would still be very much alive in all of our matches. So in a way, it was a bit of a disappointing realization that without those two, and honestly, you could say the same without Bastoni or without Barella, we'll see without Lautaro, this team just lacks so much depth to be able to plug and play and put in somebody else to kind of pick up the slack. It's really disappointing in certain ways.
Mikko, I want to ask you about a few individual performances here. Firstly, or maybe a bit of a duo here, but Barella and Çalhanoğlu. Can you assess their performances as a tandem?
As a tandem, I guess they were okayish. They swapped their positions time to time, like they usually do when the situation requires. And the defending, it was, well, the Barella, he does his job on his flank. I don't know about Çalhanoğlu. I felt that, at least with the ball, he wasn't maybe at his best. He hasn't been at his best for some time now, and I think we need him to be a bit better than this. I wasn't completely happy with his game. I liked Barella. I think he made good decisions, mostly with the ball. Maybe there were a few occasions when he could have played them like the smarter, safer choice. But other than that, I think he was decent. And of course, kind of the engine keeps going all match long. And when he's in the game and he doesn't get frustrated or anything, I think he's invaluable for the team. And was it Çalhanoğlu who was taken off for Fratesi, if I remember correctly? So Inzaghi didn't do the mistake and took Barella off, but he took Çalhanoğlu, who was maybe a bit weaker and probably was out of gas anyway. So it was a bit of a mixed feelings between the two of them.
And what about the defense? How did our defensive trio play? Bastoni, Acerbi, and Bisek. I think I will add that I don't want to say Pavard's injury was a blessing in disguise, but I felt Bisek suited the game with his athleticism and his constant bombarding forward. He offered an outlet to Dumfries very often. He helped us retain possession down the right flank very often, and defensively I thought he was fine for the most part.
Yeah, I had a bit of I don't know, mixed feelings with the defense as well. They made a bit of mistakes in the first half with the ball, without the ball. But I kind of agree with Bisek take. I wanna attribute the second goal on Bisek. Well, of course, Acerbi wasn't following his guy at all. Pedri was able to give the cross pretty freely, but it was pretty far. So it is what it is. I think Bisek was the main man. He completely lost Rafinha there and let him give a completely free header. That's not good enough. But other than that, I agree that Bisek was he didn't have any other faults there. I like his game and his kind of aggressive play. plays, offensive plays when needed, when it was needed. Bastonia, Chirpy, well, we considered 3 goals. One of them was the kind of the wonder strike from Rafinha. Can't do anything about that. Yamal, well, it was kind of a wonder goal as well. XG was like 4% or something. So what can you do? Maybe I don't know if there was a possibility to close him down a bit better there, but in the end it was just like a world class shot. You can't do much about that in the end. So
Could
maybe the
Sommer
second,
have done
yeah,
better on Rafinha's goal?
maybe,
When I
but
went back and looked at the replay, it was actually quite central.
yeah, it was. But I think the problem was that he didn't kind of see the shot. He saw it too late, so he reacted like, I think
Could that not
otherwise.
be considered his own fault for having such luxurious long hair?
maybe. Yeah. I think it was a bit tough one. But
As a man
what
who
can
has a
you do?
similar hairstyle to Jan Sommer, is it
Yeah.
not the hairee's responsibility to keep one's hair out of one's eyes?
Yeah, there was a lot of traffic also on top of the hairs being all over the place. So
I'll say that it was probably a demonstration of how Sommer's height can work against him from time to time. I feel like a taller goalkeeper like Donnarumma maybe would have probably done better on that goal, but what's done is done, I guess. Fun. I want to give a bit of a shout out to, I think, the player who has to be considered our most important midfielder, Henrik Mkhitaryan. Covered the most ground today. I felt was instrumental in not only covering Yamal, although there was obviously an instance where he failed to do so, leading to his goal. But other than that, defended admirably, acted as the glue in our attacking movements and transition, and was denied a wonderful goal at Camp Nou, this time not Aslani, but by the length of a toe. Describe his performance for me.
Yeah, I mean, very well said. Player I've been a little critical on throughout the season, but he put in a great performance. The highlights were what you mentioned. You could tell the plan with Yamal was very quickly to keep, DeMarco on him and then station Mkhitaryan basically on the inside to kind of prevent him from, easing in on his left foot, into the box, into the central area. Whether that really worked or not is up for debate. But yes, it was an admirable performance in terms of defense for sure. Something that, you don't necessarily associate with Mkhitaryan. And then overall, he did a great job in the midfield too of trying to kind of patch things up and doing what he could into the attack. And the goal denial was really, really harsh. I mean, I feel like that's one of those perfect examples of cases where technically the VAR is right that it's offside, but man, in the spirit, you're really looking at somebody's toe versus like the full length of their body to make that decision. So that was really sort of harsh. If anything, you talked about Summer's beautiful hair. I guess we could talk about Mkhitaryan's elongated toes as being another kind of thing that's an issue. But overall, yeah, he played really well.
I thought you were going to say Mkhitaryan's Goran Pandev penis hair.
Well, just the tip, just the tip of his toe. So overall, yeah, he played really well. I thought the midfield overall played well. I was a little disappointed, to be honest, in Hakan's performance. I thought that the way Barcelona was playing, someone like Hakan with his vision and his passing could have done a much better job of sort of unlocking that, because there was a lot of space. I mean, with the high line that Barcelona plays, like a player like Hakan and his vision should really sort of have the keys to unlock the defense pretty much every single time. But the problem is that it's just the way we played, our tactics against them were to stay defensively organized. And so that really did prevent us from really exploiting a lot of that space and being too adventurous, which is fine. But it is it is something to see the way these guys like defend with reckless abandon. I mean, it's honestly it's kind of scary. Like if I was a Barcelona fan and watching them, and again, we scored 3 goals. 2 of them from set pieces, but a lot of it because we were able to put a little bit of pressure on their defense and earn a corner, or on the first goal really put them to the sword. So it's an interesting matchup. Like the English commentators kept saying, what a difference, what a clash of styles. And I think that does put it really well, as cliche as it sounds, because the setup and the tactics on our side were so different from the way they play, but they kind of do mesh pretty well. It's like a yin and a yang sort of approach. And so the 3-3 result doesn't surprise me in that sense. But you're right. Mkhitaryan played really well. I'm hoping for the return leg to see a little bit more from our midfield. I thought that too often we would just try to get the ball and then like boot it and not try to like retain it and try to pass it around and make Barca run a little bit and get them a little tired. And I think some of that comes from the midfield. But they were putting in such a heavy defensive performance, all 3 of them really, that I guess you can kind of give them the pass.
I want to quickly comment on that. You mentioned how Çalhanoğlu didn't kind of, or wasn't able to unlock their defense as much as we maybe would have hoped. And I felt, especially in the second half, it felt there were like many occasions. Maybe Çalhanoğlu wasn't even on the pitch at that point anymore. But anyway, their defense was like so high, and we were in positions where you could have just put like a through ball there and players run to that, and somehow we couldn't find the place there, so that there wasn't like players running at the right moment, and we kind of kept missing those chances to really open the defense. There's so much space behind their defenders, and it was the Mkhitaryan offside goal was the one case where there was so much space. There were two of our guys there completely free in the box, and I don't know what is Barcelona's kind of approach for the second leg, but if there is if it's a similar way they want to play, we should really try to kind of exploit that high defensive line more, because there's so much space, and we need to try to find those kind of plays where we have a Barella, Çalhanoğlu, for example, Bastoni, to be able to put the long ball there, and there's Dumfries or Thuram running towards the ball. And now it was a bit kind of stationary most of the time, and the guys were there looking so that they are not offside. And I don't know, maybe that was Barcelona playing it smartly, like pressing our guys at the right moment so they can do the pass. But anyway, if we can find a way to unlock that's like a big one. We should try to find the ways to give a few of those kind of true balls.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think Barcelona knew that. I mean, I think their defenders were very aggressive also. So not only were they keeping a high line, they were pretty quick to foul if anyone sort of got through the ranks, or to try to just clear it away. So you could tell that they knew that they were doing a little bit of last-ditch defending. And then there was a couple of balls that came through, and Szczesny would just kind of run up and play kind of sweeper and clear it away. So I think they knew that was a potential way for Inter to exploit them, and they were prepared with that tactic. It just reminded me again, though, Mikko, like it sucks that we don't have a player that on the bench or otherwise that really gives us that little extra bit of pace or something like that. I mean, when there's no coincidence that Thuram and Dumfries were the ones who had pretty much the best match, because they do have a little bit of speed at least. And if they don't have that much speed, they have a lot of strength. Like they're pretty physical players that can put a lot of pressure on one defender trying to stay in front of them or prevent them from making a run. And you really saw how we were able to exploit that with Barcelona. I mean, the one thing Barcelona is so different from Bayern in is that they're not a very physical team at all. I mean, they have very skilled players, but they don't have a lot of really kind of rough and tough sort of players getting in your face or preventing you from getting to where you want to go. Like if one of our attacking players or midfielders wants a spot on the pitch, they can get that spot because Barcelona is not really going to stand in their way in that way. So, it's unfortunate that we don't have someone that can kind of really run in behind that defense, getting on the end of a long ball or, with one skill move, just like, getting free. It really sucks that we don't have someone like that, because against a team like Barcelona, someone like that on the bench, in the second half of this last match would have made such a difference. Like, like a Raspadori type player would have been such a difference for us in that situation. So just one other kind of lost opportunity. But I do think, though, that, the second half of this match, I think, was a lot more sort of what I would expect in the second leg. Because the first half of this match was just something utterly unsustainable, I think, from both sides. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I got really concerned, and I'm curious what you guys thought, obviously, with the Lautaro injury. But man, like Taremi played again, completely and utterly ineffectual. And then, Arnautovic coming in, and it's just so, man, like the forward play on this team outside of Lautaro and Thuram is just so concerning because they don't bring much of anything. Like I said, it's not even like they can't even give us that pace or that extra chicory. It's just, there's just nothing. It's just like we fall off a cliff, and I'm really concerned about Lautaro's injury.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask Jay about Lautaro. To me, his first half, or like what he played there, I think he was like almost unfit from the start. He looked like really, really sluggish, and he didn't have like a proper legs to even do his normal press game. How do you saw Jay, how Lautaro played, and what's the kind of impact if we miss him for the second leg?
Depends how fit he is, of course. It's really hard to say because we've seen such a mixed bag from Lautaro this season, a massive variety of range in the scope of his performances. His games against Bayern Munich were top notch. He was everywhere. He was doing everything. He scored, and he was involved in every way that you'd want from a leading forward player. And then in the kind of games in between, he was completely ineffectual. I'm referring to the games against Milan, Roma, and Bologna, for example. So, and yet in all these games, I don't think he was ever fit. I don't think he was fit for them. I don't think he's been fully fit pretty much for large stretches of this entire season. So it's really hard to say, and naturally the lack of consistent fitness is contributing to the inconsistency in form, and the we'll need him for the second leg. If he's not available, then what can we do? It'll be a massive loss, but we have to try and make it through. But before we move on, let me ask you guys at this stage, how confident are you for the second leg?
I can go first. I gotta say, to me, there's like a huge possible swing between do we have Lautaro or not, and do Barcelona have Lewandowski or not. If it goes like the worst possible way for us, I don't like our chances in that case. I think like Irfan mentioned, we are a physical team compared to Barcelona, and if Barcelona can add a Lewandowski type of striker, let alone the Lewandowski himself, who's like a world-class striker, it's going to be tough since they have like a additional route to the goals compared to what they have now with their like a little guys and more skilled technical, not that physical guys. I remember he scored 2 goals against us last time we were there, including some, I think it was injury time header, if I remember correctly, where he dominated the aerial space there, and that's a, I think that's a big swing in the odds. In addition to, do we have Lautaro or not? Do we have to play like Taremi or Hall of Fit or Nautovic from the start? Uh, uh, it it doesn't sound promising to me. So let's hope Lautaro will magically kind of survive from his. I believe it was some kind of a muscle strain. So that doesn't sound good. But let's hope for the best. There's a big swing, I think, in the kind of forward department of both teams there. What about you, Irfan?
Yeah, it's what you said. I'm concerned in a lot of ways. I'm obviously concerned about Lautaro's fitness and whether he's even physically able to play. And if he starts, like how effective will he be? Because, like you mentioned, he looked hobbled pretty much throughout the match. I'm also concerned about Thuram's fitness. By the end of the match, he was completely gone. And obviously, after not playing for a while, I don't expect him to run out there and play at the frenetic pace he played for 90 minutes. But, he's clearly also injured and fighting through it. So, hopefully he can rest for a little bit and, recover some strength and recover some fitness and go out there because he's going to be one of our most important players. Even if he's not scoring a goal, he's one of the few players that can really keep Barcelona's defense and their midfield on alert for a player who can kind of get in behind and prevent them from kind of going into full attack mode. So he's a very critical player for us. So his fitness also concerns me. The other player who I hope is just injured and not in great form is DeMarco, because he's been consistently poor for like the last however many matches he's played. And, again, I think anyone defending Yamal is going to have a really, really hard time on their hands, but he again did not look the part at all. So I'm actually hoping that Augusto gets the start over him, and maybe he can come in later if we need a goal or something like that. But his fitness and his kind of form also concerned me quite a bit. The other player who I also just can't imagine is at 100% right now that we also talked about is Hakan, because he also just doesn't seem nearly as active and dominating as he usually is. So you could tell, like, this is a team. I think we have like consistently one of the oldest starting ages of any Champions League team this entire season. And it shows, and it's starting to show the wear and tear down the stretch. And again, I go back to the point where we don't have a lot of viable substitutes that don't just result in a total deterioration of our gameplay. And so it would be extremely concerning to me if Lautaro cannot start and can't, give us at least, 60, 70 minutes. I think we're in a lot of trouble because, man, Taremi, Correa, Arnautovic, none of them, I think, are suited for this match or suited really for any match. Despite a few good performances by Arnautovic, you got to give him credit for those.
I can, but I won't. I think you guys are right in identifying Lautaro's fitness as the key variable for the second leg. We'll obviously preview the second leg in greater detail in our weekend episode. For now, before we move on to a quick preview of the Hellas Verona game, well, give me a percentage or a likeliness. What chance do you think we have of progressing to the final as things currently stand?
Honestly, I mean, I'm fairly optimistic. I mean, with the big asterisk about Lautaro's health, we're at home. We just proved that we're not afraid of these guys with the 3-3 result. We've proven to ourselves and to everybody that we can hit them and we can score against them. So there's a few wild cards that Mikko mentioned that we've talked about already with their team and with our team. But I'm optimistic, and not just because I'm going to be in the stadium watching, which I'm extremely excited about, but I think we can come out with a 1-0 or like a 2-1 sort of win. I'm fairly optimistic that can happen. But we'll see. I would say the chances of us progressing, I would put it at maybe 60-65%. I'm more optimistic, I think, than I definitely was before this first leg. What about you, Mikko?
Yeah, gotta stay optimistic since this is probably the only competition left for us. So, despite what we all just discussed about the forwards, let's say we have with the home advantage, we have like a 55-45 advantage for the win, but it's going to be a really tough one. Let's hope it will be like a nail biter, and we'll kind of prevail in the end. But given what happened against Bayern, okay, it was a bit different kind of setup with the goal advantage for us at the moment when we started the second leg. So we kind of defended the lead, but still now it's like a new match, one-off match at San Siro. So I want to hope there's like a small advantage for us in this one. What's your numbers, Jay? 2080?
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think, with Lautaro facing season-ending injury, and they've got players like Rafinha and Yamal, who are, Yamal at this stage, you have to say, is probably the best player on the planet, maybe only behind Pulisic and Reinders. It's hard to play against these kinds of guys, and Lautaro will make a huge difference. But as mentioned, we'll discuss that game in more detail when we get there. But let's talk about the most interesting topic there is here, and that's Hellas Verona. I don't even know where these guys are ranked in the table. Mikko?
No idea, but probably they are safe. So I don't know.
Let me ask you guys this. Given the fact that we are now -3 in the league, and the title is no longer in our own hands, and we have to hope that Napoli either draw twice or lose once at least, what's our approach to not only this game but the rest of the league games we have? Should we just say fuck it and go all in on the Champions League?
I would say yes. That is like highly uncharacteristic by me, but how you kind of framed the whole situation, which is what it is. So I think given the result of the first leg pushes us to like really at least think that what is important, what is possible, since the last week showed that okay, it's not possible to fight in every competition. We are out of Coppa now. Do we kind of downgrade the championship or the league Serie A to the Coppa level and just say fuck it, like we've been saying here in the podcast before? Does Inzaghi realizes the limits of his squad? It's going to be really interesting to see the starting lineup against Verona, but I would go full bench. How much is it even possible if Lautaro is out? Well, he's definitely out against Verona, but I wouldn't want to see Thuram starting. I don't want to see. I don't want to see
Mkhitaryan is the
Bastoni.
big one here. Mkhitaryan needs to play exactly 0 minutes against Hellas Verona.
Yeah, I agree. Dumfries. I don't
Dumfries
want to,
too. Dumfries 0 minutes.
I
Mkhitaryan
don't want
0
to.
minutes.
Maybe, yeah.
Acerbi 0 minutes, etc. And Thuram 0 minutes. These players should be embargoed from playing, basically. But let me put it this way: I would play the shitters because I think we have to put our eggs in the Champions League basket at this stage. Don't get me wrong. Yes, there's a chance that Napoli might lose, but I think the chance is better than some think that Napoli will drop points in the remaining 4 games, but I don't think the chances are worth us investing in the hope of them dropping points. So,
Yes,
put
yes,
it this way: if I had 2 choices, one a guaranteed spot in this Champions League final and losing all the remaining league games, or winning all the remaining league games and hoping that Napoli slip up and not making it to the Champions League final, I'm taking the former. Irfan, what about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. It's really hard for me to think it's worth putting all of our best players out there in the hopes that Napoli end up dropping 3 points. I mean, even if we were talking 1 point or 2 points, it'd be more manageable. But we really need them to like essentially lose, or like you said, get 2 draws, and that's a really tough go, especially when our match schedule doesn't get much easier even after this match. So to me, it's like you try to find the right balance, which I think Inzaghi has, in fairness, tried to do with the rotation, but you can't you can't sacrifice any of these key players for the second leg in the Barcelona match. You just can't. So you have to rely on some of your backups and hope that against a team that's really not that great, you can still pull out a good result. So I agree. I don't want to see Thuram. I don't want to see Mkhitaryan. I definitely don't want to see Dumfries. It'd be nice if we could see DeMarco and kind of save Augusto for the second leg. That could be one of the starters that plays. You could roll the dice a little bit with the defense. But yeah, I think you have to be very focused on the second leg of the Barcelona match. I mean, it's given us a unique opportunity, to hopefully play another 90 minutes and not more than 90 minutes, but a 90-minute match that can potentially get us to the Champions League final. I mean, how many times do you ever get that opportunity, and you've set yourself up after the first leg? So I think you have to go for it. So hopefully, like we see some rotation, we see some rest, and now we need to hope that some of these players get their fitness back and that their injuries and muscles can hold up for a few more weeks.
It's also from a team perspective, it's time for some of these guys to step up. And I say that kind of under the assumption that, or hope, that Inzaghi will do indeed that and put the eggs in the Champions League basket and go all out reserves here, because these guys, a lot of them haven't performed. I'm talking about the Fratesis, the Zielinskis, the Taremis, the Arnautovic's, whatever. They haven't delivered. And I know they fucking know it as well. They need to take this game with the approach of, it's time for me to do my part while the big boys get a bit of rest for the bigger battle coming up midweek next week against Barcelona. And if we can't beat 15th place Verona with a rotated team, then shame on them. So we absolutely must play a dog shit lineup. Correa starting up front with Taremi kind of thing. Like I said, Zalewski, Fratesi, Aslani, and Baron Brook for all I care. And really focus on the second leg against Barcelona, because the result that we somewhat unexpectedly attained, and maybe it's a bit of an insult to say that this result was unexpected, because maybe it's exactly what Inzaghi expected rather. He hides it well, but he's an ambitious guy as well. And so the result attained in the first leg kind of compels us to invest more in the Champions League, I think.
yeah, yeah. Good that you mentioned Korea, because he is not in the Champions League list, so we can't even use him in these Champions League matches. So he definitely should play 90 minutes. I don't know, has he played 90 minutes ever in this season? But I hope he can pull it off, because we are a bit of short in attack. Since, well, I fear Inzaghi will start Thuram anyway, but I hope he does not do that, because Thuram is just came back. He played like what did he play against Barcelona? He played like 80 minutes. That was a long time to come back from the injury. So I wouldn't want to see Thuram play, but I fear he will play at some point because Inzaghi, it feels he wants to push his best guys to the limit all the time. But let's hope now's the time kind of do the realization, like where are we at, what we can really do. Like you guys mentioned, Napoli needs to lose a match. They need to draw 2 games for us to have a chance. I can almost easily believe they can draw 1 match between these Lecce, Genoa, Parma, Cagliari, but 2 matches. That's a bit too hopeful to see that happening, since they can focus on those matches, or only those matches. Let's hope Inzaghi makes this kind of a hard decision and trust the bench guys this time.
Yeah, and like Jay mentioned, it's such a good point that this is really the time where you really got to dig deep and find something to contribute if you're on this team. I mean, look, none of us are professional athletes. At least I don't think we are, unless you guys haven't told me something. But you have to admit that there has to be some sort of professional pride and some level of inspiration when you go and watch your boys, like your team, go out and perform at the kind of level that they just performed. It's got to be inspirational. I mean, if it's inspirational as a fan, I can't imagine it's not inspirational when you're sitting in the locker room or sitting on the bench watching it all happen. And they all have, they all have professional pride, and they all have egos, and they all have, a paycheck that comes into them. So you really expect that in a situation like this, they can put things into the proper context. And if you're a Zielinski, and if you're an Aslani, and if you're a Taremi or a Zalewski or a Darmian, like you have to imagine that, like, you're sitting there, you're like, all right, this is it. This is our shift. This is our opportunity to go out and, put a stamp on this. And regardless of how shitty they might have played this season, like, this matchup presents like a very unique opportunity for them to really step up and be like a real contributing force for a team that is fighting on all these fronts. So you really hope that there's some level of, professionalism and just inspiration on these guys, and they come out and they can put together a good performance against, like you said, a 15th place team. So, I think it's fair to expect that as a fan, and hopefully we actually get it, because I think that should be kind of the minimum expectations, really.
Agreed. Well, let's wrap up there. Before we go, can I get an Irfan's hot tip? That sounded gay as fuck.
Just a tip? No, I think you're the one who has to offer us the tip, Jay. What have you got for us?
I've got, wait for it, PSG 0, Arsenal 3. Declan Rice is going to outdo himself by scoring 3 free kicks this time.
Oof.
And
oh boy,
it'll be a wonderful moment for the Gooners when they become the second English team in the span of 3 years to defeat Inter in the Champions League final to win their first ever European Cup.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Jay.
And neither really. What else should I go? Maybe like Valladolid 3-1 Barca. Yeah, so some guy breaks Yamal's legs. What can we bet on here?
Yeah, we don't hope injuries to anyone, but maybe we hope that.
I will say
I'm not above hoping for injuries. I absolutely plenty of injuries.
At this point in the season, in this economy, yeah, I could root for people's injuries. I will say one thing before we go, just that we didn't touch on, which I'd be very remiss not to actually say. As much as I appreciated your rant in the beginning, Jay, I think the one thing that we didn't mention was, man, these guys flop like bitches. it's just like that Sergio Busquets thing, which is ingrained in my mind, from our 2010 Champions League run. But man, they flop so much. They're just looking for it, and they just go down and are like rolling around in pain. And it just reminds me of why this team is so irritating and so annoying to play against. And it's just part of their arsenal, and it's just really annoying.
There was this great clip you Jay posted about, was it after the Dumfries goal? Dumfries' first goal, when there was this battle between Acerbi and someone, when Acerbi gave the header, and then there was the goal, and Acerbi started running there, and he was like ragdolling some Barca guy, and he was like thrown to the ground quite violently. It reminded me a bit about these pictures of Bastoni dragging Pedri in the previous time we played against Barcelona. Maybe it was 2 years ago in the Champions League. That kind of pinpointed this kind of a level, this kind of okay, we have these grown men, and then we have these boys there, and they can be dragged around and threw around all over the place. That was a funny detail. You should check it out there.
All right, let's leave it there. Will you do the honors, Mikko?
Sure. Forza Inter, Forza Valladolid.
Awesome.
All right.
Till next time.